goes around and, you know, he serenades the women. And I'm like, this is awesome. And then I told him, I was like, man, look, listen, Usher, I mess with you the long way, the longest of long ways. But if you come over here and try and serenade my wife, I'm throwing elbows at you, dog.
It's on.
I told him I'm diving on him immediately.
And did he say, don't worry, that's not going to happen?
Nah, he had the confidence to tell me, hey, I'm going back out on tour, so there's another chance. I'm like, hold on, wait, Usher, nah. But you know, it is what it is. He got to do what he got to do.
Usher's got to do what he's got to do. That man puts more of himself into his concerts than any other artist going right now. Like, honestly, let him do what he wants. He's putting it all out there.
This is SportsCenter.
Hey, I'm Julia Teixeira, and we start with some huge breaking news. As Sidney Crosby signs a 2-year extension with the Penguins, and guess what the AAV is? Of course, it's $8.7 million. He's obsessed, he loves it, he needs it. He can't do literally anything without it, including apparently buy gas. Remember that from earlier this summer? So yeah, it was gonna be 8.7 all along. Penn's president of hockey operations and GM, Kyle Dubas, said, quote, "There are no words to properly describe what Sidney Crosby means to the game of hockey, the city of Pittsburgh, and the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. Sidney is the greatest player of his generation and one of the greatest players in the history of the game. His actions today show why he is one of hockey's greatest winners and leaders. Sid is making a tremendous personal sacrifice in an effort to help the Penguins win, both now and in the future, as he has done for his entire career." Does that mean he's definitely not getting traded either, even if the Penguins are really bad and he could potentially go to a contender at the deadline? This feels finite. Crosby is entering his franchise-leading 20th season as a Penguin and wearing the C for his 18th. Just 1 year behind Steve Yzerman as the NHL's longest tenured captain. Crosby is aging like a fine wine, as he's improved on his point production each of his last 5 seasons. Something that just doesn't happen at his age. Now the question remains, what else could Pittsburgh do to build a championship roster in the final years of Sid's career? Personally, I don't think that they can. I think that this next phase is about just being competitive and helping bring up the younger players. But, you know, all the power to the Penguins if they really think they could build a champion. To the NFL, and if you started this season in an NFL survival pool, the math tells us the likelihood is that you are out, as we've had some major upsets through the first 2 weeks of the season. But for some teams who lost in week 2, it's time to ask the question. Is it time to panic? Let's start with the Cowboys, who were absolutely dominated start to finish by the Saints, which brought out this reaction from Stephen A. Smith.
The Saints talk about the most points, big victory for them here today, coming into Arlington
Week 2, and it's already started. How about them Cowboys?
A bit we will never get tired of. But as we bring up our panic meter here, we're a little panicked to panic, because it was just one bad performance against a Saints team that's actually looked unbelievable through 2 weeks. And Dallas did look good in the week 1 win against the Browns. On to the 49ers, and not a lot of people saw that coming. But the state of Minnesota has been a house of horror for the Niners for over 30 years now, as they have not won there since 1992. December 13th, 1992 to be exact. And when we get one of those old dates, we always gotta do this. The #1 movie was Aladdin, and the #1 song, Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You. I was not born in December 92, but I have to point out that Taylor Swift's birthday is December 13th. She was born in 89, so happy birthday to Tiny Her on that day. And while it hurts even more losing to your former backup, we're not really too concerned from a Niners perspective. Although the CMC injury does give us a little bit of a sweat, but as long as he looks like his old self in a month, they should be fine. Let's move on to the AFC North, and we've got our first little uh-oh when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. And that's because of an ugly blown lead against the Raiders. But realistically, this team is pretty close to being 2-0, or at least a toenail away from being 1-1. But the reason we're uh-oh for the Ravens is because of their upcoming schedule. And we might as well bring it up in comparison to the Bengals, who are also 0-2. But this Ravens schedule is an absolute gauntlet over the next month plus, which is not at all the case for Cincy. And also why when we bring up our Cincy panic meter, we are panicked at their 0-2, but we're not in uh-oh phase. And one reason for that is history. Since the playoffs expanded to 14 teams in 2020, only 2 teams that have started 0-2 have made the playoffs. But one of those was the 2022 Bengals, who went 12-4 and made the Super Bowl that year. And we got some big QB news just moments ago as 2023 first overall pick Bryce Young is reportedly being benched after 2 games, with veteran Andy Dalton starting next week, according to the NFL Network's Tom Pelissero. Week 2 concludes tonight on TSN. It's the Battle of the Birds between the Falcons and the Eagles at 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific. But pregame starts nice and early at 6 with Monday Night Countdown. It's finally about that time. NHL training camps get underway this week. And it's officially not insane to be fired up for the hockey season. But it is okay to be a little nervous if your favorite team hasn't re-signed one of their key players. There seems to be more unsigned restricted free agents than there normally is around this time. So let's take a look at the notable ones heading into camp. Of course, Jeremy Swayman has taken up a lot of the oxygen over the past few weeks. And with Linus Ullmark already dealt to Ottawa, you'd think there would have already been a plan in place for Swayman to sign and stay in Boston. The Bruins open camp in 2 days. And if the two parties can't come to an agreement before then, Joonas Korpisalo will start camp as their #1 guy. A crazy thought after the tandem that the Bruins had last year. Let's head north of the border where the Jets' Cole Perfetti still remains unsigned. Although it's worth noting that he did represent the Jets at NHL Media Day, which is unusual for an unsigned player, and said outright that he wants to be in Winnipeg. It's clear that both the Jets and Perfetti want something done here, but it definitely wouldn't be great for a guy at his stage of his career to miss any of camp. So hopefully we hear an update there soon. And the Red Wings have 2 RFA situations to get nailed down before camp, with 2 pivotal players to get re-signed in Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider. The duo combined for 114 points last season, and even though we know Stevie Y is not the type of guy to feel any sort of heat, the Wings have to be hoping these 2 deals get done soon. And those aren't the only RFAs still kicking around on September 16th. Other notable players who still need deals are Thomas Harley, Dawson Mercer, and more. So where are the offer sheets? Come on guys, let's see them. Back to the NFL, where we had some huge injuries yesterday that we need updates on. Let's start with the biggest one. As we learned today, the Chiefs' Isiah Pacheco has a fibula injury and has officially been placed on injured reserve. Pacheco will undergo further testing to determine the severity of the injury, but he will miss a minimum of 4 games. A huge loss for the 2-0 Chiefs. On to Justin Jefferson, and it looked ugly when he left the game and went to the Blue medical tent. But good news for the 2-0 Vikings, as it's just a quad contusion for Jefferson, and he'll be on the field for Week 3 against Houston. And sticking with another receiver, Cooper Kupp left the game with an ankle injury and will get testing done today to gauge the severity. But as of now, we still don't know his status moving forward, which could be a big blow to the Rams if he misses any time, who are already without Puka Nacua, who's on IR with a PCL sprain. Week 2 continues tonight on TSN. It's the Falcons and Eagles at 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific. Time now for my favorite segment and yours, Why We Love Sports Today.
Why we love sports today.
And you know, if we're showing you lax highlights, they gotta be pretty good. And you know what? I like lax. Lacrosse is awesome.
Ooh.
Oh my God, bro! That was box lacrosse play in a field lacrosse situation. Double doink. Double Dion? Yeah, I guess. Throwback.
Phaneuf had him lined up and just missed him.
It's a double Dion.
Now the defenseman falls.
Kabam! A double kabam!
You know, anytime we could show you that clip, we're obviously gonna pull it out of the archives, guys. Why not? That's all for today. It'll be me again tomorrow. I'll see you there, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific.